The heavens split open and a being of light appeared. It shifted forms before his eyes. First a youth, then an old man, then a servant. Yet it was one being, radiating through multiple shapes at once. John, the son of Zebedee, had fled to the desert mountains outside Jerusalem, shaken to his core. Moments earlier, a Pharisee named Erimanios had confronted him at the temple and mocked him. "Where is your master?" the Pharisee demanded. "That Nazarene deceived you?" He filled your ears with lies. Alone on that mountain, grief tore through John's chest. Then the sky broke apart. The luminous figure spoke directly to him. "John, why do you doubt I am the Father? I am the Mother, I am the Son. I have come to teach you what was, what is, and what will come to pass." This is how the secret book of John begins. This is the text that was buried for nearly 2,000 years, unearthed in Nag Hammadi, Egypt, in 1945. 4 copies survived across ancient codices hidden in a sealed clay jar beneath the sand. The text was written before 180 AD. The early church tried to destroy every single trace of it. They failed. And the story Christ reveals to John that day is a creation account unlike anything you have ever heard, before anything existed. There was the monad, the invisible spirit, a source so far beyond human comprehension the text itself struggles to describe it at all. Not a God who speaks or demands worship, not a being who sits on a throne. The monad was beyond perfection, beyond existence, beyond language. Pure light dwelling in silence, complete and needing nothing. Then something stirred. The monad contemplated itself, and from that act of self-reflection, a thought took living form. She was Barbelo. The first thought, the Apocryphon calls her the perfect glory, the image of the invisible spirit, the mother-father, the first human, the thrice-powerful androgynous being. Barbelo was not crafted or shaped. She overflowed from the mind of God the way a reflection appears in still water. She became the womb of everything. Standing before the spirit, Barbelo made 4 requests. She asked for foreknowledge, and it appeared as a living being beside her. She asked for incorruptibility, then eternal life, then truth. Each emerged and took its place. Together with Barbelo, these 5 form the Pentad, the foundational aspects of the divine. The first inhabitants of a realm the Gnostics called the fullness. Then something extraordinary happened. The monad gazed upon Barbelo with what the text calls a spark, and she conceived. A child of radiant light emerged from her. The only begotten offspring of the mother-father, the Gnostics identified this being as Christ, the self-generated one. The Spirit anointed him with goodness until he reached perfection. Christ was given all authority. He was given mind as his companion. Together they brought forth will and word. From Christ came 4 great luminaries of light. Armazel, Davitai, Oroyael, Elilith, each governed 3 eons within the divine realm. 12 eons in total, forming a living architecture of light surrounding the divine center. Then came the perfect human, Adamas, holy Adam, placed in the realm of Armazel. His son Seth was placed in Oroyael, and the Gnostics would later call Seth's spiritual descendants the Immovable race, the unshakable lineage that carries the divine spark through all of human history. They believed themselves to be that sacred lineage, but at the furthest edge of this radiant architecture, in the realm of Elilith dwelled the youngest and last emanation. Her name was Sophia, wisdom. She was luminous, powerful, and deeply restless. Sophia wanted to create something of her own, but she acted without her divine partner. She acted without the consent of the Spirit. Every being before her had emerged through harmony, through sacred union. She broke that pattern. Alone, driven by a desire she could not contain, she brought forth something from herself. And what emerged was monstrous. It had the face of a lion and the body of a serpent. Its eyes blazed like lightning. Horrified by what she had produced, Sophia cast it out of the divine realm and wrapped it in a luminous cloud so that none of the other eons would discover her shame. She placed it on a throne in the void beneath heaven and abandoned it there. She named him Yaldabaoth, child of chaos. He has also been called Sakla, the fool, and Samael, the blind god. He could not see where he came from. He did not know the realm above him existed. And alone in that darkness, bloated with stolen power and consumed by total ignorance, he opened his mouth and spoke the words that would define him forever. I am God, and there is no other God beside me. He was dead wrong, and everything he would build from that moment forward, including the world you are standing on right now, was constructed upon that lie. What he built from that lie begins in part 2. A voice thundered from above, "You are wrong, Samael." The hypostasis of the Archons records that when Yaldabaoth's boast reached the incorruptible realm, it did not go unanswered, but the blind god could not hear truth. He had already begun building. He mated with the mindlessness inside himself and generated 12 Archons, demonic rulers to govern the heavens he was constructing. The text names them Athoth, Harmas, Kalila Umbri, Yabel, Adonaios, Cain, Abel, Abrisine, Yobel, Armupiel, Melchir Adonai, and Belias. These 12 produced more until 365 existed, one for each day of the year, each assigned to a sphere of the counterfeit cosmos. Meanwhile, his mother Sophia wept. She saw the full horror of what her solitary act had unleashed. She repented. Her grief reached the invisible spirit, who set a plan into motion to recover the divine light trapped inside Yaldabaoth's kingdom. Sophia was placed in the 9th heaven to wait and atone. Then an image appeared on the waters below, a reflection of the heavenly Adamas, the perfect human from the realm of light. The Archons saw it and were captivated. They did not know its source, but they craved it. The text records them saying, "Come, let us create a man according to the image of God and according to our likeness." They tried. They fashioned a body from dust and crude matter. 365 Archons each contributed a piece, shaping bones, sinew, and flesh. But the body lay motionless on the ground. It would not breathe, would not move. This is where everything turned. Emissaries from the divine realm whispered to Yaldabaoth, "Breathe your spirit into this body and it will arise." He did not see the trap. He exhaled into the lifeless form. And the divine power he had unknowingly inherited from Sophia flowed out of him and into Adam. The first human opened his eyes. He was immediately more luminous and more intelligent than every Archon who had built him. They panicked. Their own creation had surpassed them. They had been outsmarted by a realm they never knew existed. In jealous fury, the Archons seized Adam and cast him into the lowest depths of matter. They placed him in Eden, not as paradise, but as a prison, filling it with pleasures to dull his awareness and bind him to the material world. They extracted the divine insight from Adam and fashioned Eve. When Adam saw her, the text says he recognized her instantly as his spiritual counterpart, the luminous half of his own nature. Then came the serpent. Here the Gnostic account shatters the version you were taught. Sophia herself moved through the serpent and urged Eve to eat from the tree of knowledge. The fruit was not a curse. It was Gnosis, the first true awakening. They remembered where they came from. Their eyes opened not to shame, but to the reality of their divine origin. Yaldabaoth was enraged. He expelled them from the garden. He violated Eve, and from that act came Cain and Abel, whom the Gnostics also called Yahweh and Elohim, names the Hebrew scriptures used for God himself. He planted sexual desire in the human race to produce more bodies into which he could breathe his counterfeit spirit, a false inner voice designed to mimic the true spirit and keep humanity locked in ignorance and confusion. The Apocryphon calls this counterfeit spirit the source of all earthly evil. It is what causes people to die without ever finding truth. He forced them to drink the water of forgetfulness, erasing memory of their origin, but it did not work on everyone. Adam and Eve brought forth Seth, a son in the likeness of the heavenly Seth from above. His descendants became the immovable race, the spiritual bloodline carrying the true divine spark through history. Sophia prepared dwelling places in heaven for this lineage. Yaldabaoth tried again. He sent a great flood to destroy humanity. But forethought warned the righteous, and in the Gnostic telling, they did not board a wooden ark. They took refuge in a luminous cloud of shining light that no flood water could reach. The Gnostics taught 3 kinds of humans exist. The Pneumatics, spiritual ones carrying the spark, destined to return to the light. The Psychics, who possess souls and may awaken if they choose. And the Hylics, bound entirely to flesh. Only Gnosis, direct inner knowing, determines which path the soul walks. That is why Christ was sent, not to die for sins in the way the Orthodox Church taught, but to awaken the divine spark inside every human being. Remind us we are not products of a blind God's failed experiment, but fragments of a perfect original light scattered when Sophia fell and Yaldabaoth rose. The Gnostics called that awakening Gnosis, direct unmediated knowing. The question that echoes from these buried texts into this very moment is the one Christ posed to John on that desert mountain 2,000 years ago. Do you know who you really are?